Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Will Scott from BizDesign. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar featuring Parvinder Singh, the Chief Enterprise Architect from Intel. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes. There's a bunch of people who are going to be signing in here. So if you just stand by, we'll be starting about 2 or 3 minutes past the top of the hour. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is Will Scott from BizDesign. We've got a large number of people attending. We'll be starting in about 1 minute for today's webinar. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Will Scott from BizDesign, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all today to today's webinar featuring Parvinder Singh from Intel. And today, Parvinder's got a great presentation, which he recently shared at the Gartner Enterprise Architecture Summit in National Harbor, where it was a standing room only. It was a standing room only event, and Parvinder very kindly agreed to run a webinar giving out the same content. We'll be talking about the journey he went through at the Enterprise Architecture team in Intel. A couple of housekeeping items. We expect to finish probably about 45 minutes from now. If you have any questions, then please go to the question panel on the GoToWebinar controls, and there you can submit your questions. At the end of the session, we'll try to get to as many of these as we can, and if we don't get to them, we'll certainly be following up with you afterwards. So with that, Parvinder, I'll hand over to you, and please take it away.
All right, thank you. Well, for the introduction, and good morning, evening, afternoon to all of you. So let's get started. You guys have the visual? Well,
we can just see a black. We can just see a black screen right now.
Okay, just give me a second here. Having some technical difficulties. Is it any better?
Yes, now we can see it. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I'll start with a very brief introduction. I'm the principal engineer within the CTO organization, currently playing the role of Chief Enterprise Architect for Intel and also managing the data architecture for the Chief Data Office. I've been in the IT industry for about 31 odd years, and out of which 20 years within Intel. And you can learn more about me on my LinkedIn profile. So let's start where we are today. And then after I give you the preview where we are today, we will walk you through the journey of enterprise architecture at Intel. Starting with what were the outcomes we have achieved so far. What we have done so far, the very first thing is we got the buy-in from the management on the enterprise architecture effort. And as a result, we created the enterprise architecture focus team under Chief Technology Office, and we made investment in people and tools. The next thing we did, we established the Enterprise Architecture Center of Excellence. This is the main body or organization for enterprise architecture to drive the EA effort within Intel IT. And the results we achieved, we defined the enterprise architecture vision, objectives, goals that align with the business strategies and imperative. And we also defined the principal policies, methods for delivering the uniform, cohesive, and consistent enterprise architecture blueprints for BDAT stack. And we also deliver multi-year roadmap that align with the business strategies and direction and highlight the potential gaps so that we can enable the services or solutions to the business units. We also redefine and refine the processes to deliver the reference enterprise architecture and establish the enterprise architecture program tracks and KPIs to manage and measure several deliverables. And in parallel, we also created the enterprise architecture community of practice. This is to fast track the deliverables that each value stream or the organizations had, potentially to help them learn from each other, remove their roadblocks in case if they're running into some issues, have any questions. So this is more of think of it a virtual community who get together on a weekly basis, discuss their wins, their learnings, and learn from each other. And also, we established the Enterprise Architecture Compliance and the Governance Committee. And this is where we make sure that whatever architecture is put together is as per the prescribed documents. And we highlight the wins and the exceptions in the governance process. And we are also trying to move away from the manual governance process into more of an automated governance process. And I'll give you an example when I walk through the presentation. And our objective is to reduce the bureaucracy. We cannot remove it 100%, but certainly we can reduce it. So that is our objective. Now, this is where we are today, but there is a story behind it, how we got here. So I will give you the background and the situation, little history behind it. So our IT organizations had divested from the focused EA effort in about 2013. And why we did so? Simply because we had lack of support, perhaps buy-in from the top management, did not derive the values that business or IT were expecting. And the enterprise architecture focus team could neither produce the analysis that were much needed for the digital transformation, nor were able to upkeep with the speed of changes in the business and the technology landscape. And alliance with the line of business could not be established as we hoped. They still continue to work in silo. The tight partnership with IT and business units was not there. And the enterprise architecture effort started with very good intention and plan, but went kind of slightly in the wrong direction or wrong path. Example, we kind of started focusing on building the business architecture too much, not worry about the remainder of the DAT stack, which is data application and technology. So I will give you a little more insight into it. So in Q4 2016, our new CIO, Paula Tolliver, she joined from Dow Chemicals. And the very first thing she asked, okay, show me architecture on a page. How does IT architecture look like? We had nothing to show instantly, but we produced all the artifacts in about a quarter using all the Microsoft Visio and PowerPoints. We were able to bring some kind of consistency in those pictures, and we delivered the entire enterprise architecture just for IT using these two tools. Now, these blueprints that we delivered, they lacked end-to-end integration between business, data, application, and the technology component. So as an outcome, our CIO reinforced and mandated the cohesive enterprise architecture effort, and our journey started from there. And this is a journey I would like to share with you guys so that we can learn from each other. Okay. Now, how we will talk about this this journey, what we did. So the way this presentation is structured, we're going to talk about people, process, tool, and the outcomes. And we will also give you the preview into the challenges, what we did about it, the results we achieved, and what we plan to do next. So we will start with the challenges. In regards to people, as mentioned before, we had lack of management commitment. We had enterprise architects all over, but the resources were imbalanced. So some of the organizations fully funded with the enterprise architects, whereas the other organizations had almost zero enterprise architects to do the architecture work in their specific organization. And also the past unsuccessful attempts were kind of haunting us that, hey, we were never successful, so how it is going to make difference this time. And then IT and the business strategies were not aligned or understood by all the stakeholders. So these were our challenges around people. And around process, the old process was perceived as very bureaucratic. We literally have to kind of, wait for the enterprise architecture organizations to review the blueprints or the solution that we are trying to implement, sometime 4 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks. So it became very bureaucratic in nature. And also the process was more of a rubber stamp than anything else. Of course, we used to get some feedback if there were some exceptions, but it was perceived that, hey, I have to go through this particular process and get their approval. And there was a lack of partnership between the delivery team and the business units. And it was loosely integrated with the program office. And simply because of its bureaucratic nature, some of the PMs, they used to look for the escape, that how can I escape from the from this approval from the enterprise architecture body, simply because of the delayed and the wait type of situation in the line. And in regards to tool, our old enterprise architecture tool was very process heavy. So basically, I can't go to step number 2 unless I complete step number 1. So very much tied up with the industry standard framework. And our focus was mostly around the business architecture with limited access to very selected enterprise architects on that particular tool. So not all enterprise architects have access to this tool where we used to record all the blueprints. And other tools that were revolving around this enterprise architecture tool lack standardization and hence lack of complete automation. Outcome, architecture was done in silo. So every organizations like information security, supply chain, HR, they were doing the architecture in silo, and there was no consistency, no uniformity around the blueprints. And whatever blueprints we were creating, they were lifeless, and they were not always current. And what happened? Difficult to identify any technical depth or technical gaps because of the invisibility into the foundational reference architecture. Most of the enterprise architects knew that what are the building blocks, but not all. And it was impossible to run the impact analysis to address any type of transformation that is underway. So what we did about it, after we got the commitment from our new CIO, we created the EACOE, Center of Excellence. We created the Community of Practice and the Technical Work Group that we just talk about it. Now, just to give you the preview, how does the technical work group look like? What exactly it is? So this is the technical work group is kind of more of a 101. So the product lifecycle will have one technical group. Manufacturing will have another technical work group. So as supply chain, corporate services, finance, HR, etc. And who are the participants or the members of the technical work group? They are solution architects, product owners, security architects, developers, data architects, business architects, and other stakeholders. They huddle up together, discuss the solutions that they're trying to deliver the transformation they have to address, and come up with the solution. Now, we are expecting the TWG chair is completely familiar with the architecture building blocks. So we established the technical work groups, and we also did the reorganizations that how the team will come together. So we created the centralized and decentralized enterprise architecture team, but completely connected with each other. So as you see here, all these segment architects from different organizations, they are dotted line into the CTO office. And CTO office has primary main two charters. One is around the enterprise architecture and governance, and the second one is pathfinding and the product innovation. So our effort is pretty much kind of focused in this left-hand side box. And as mentioned before, the enterprise architectures primarily focus around the governance. And we have domain experts into the applications, data architects, infrastructure security, and we have a technical leadership pipeline project manager. And we tightly integrate with all these segment architects. In regards to process, we integrate the enterprise architecture blueprints deliverable with the product, program, or project lifecycle management. And we mandated the enterprise architecture blueprints review with the technical work groups and delivery teams. And we started to review the blueprints starting from L0 all the way to L3. Now, these are our internal terms. L0 is, think of it more of a explore or pre-explore. And then L1, L2, and L3 is like conceptual, logical, and physical architecture. So at every step, whenever there is a change, we will review these blueprints within the TWG, and TWG can pretty much bring the solutions or any change in the technical landscape to the enterprise architecture center of excellence. And we also implemented the automated governance process, and our goal is to reach 50% automation by 2018. Now, what does that mean? What does auto governance mean? I think this is an interesting topic to discuss. I'll give you a few examples what exactly it means. So whenever an architecture blueprint is created, and by the way, we are using Archimate language as our ADM. And we also have several tools that I will go through into the details where we have the application or the IT asset repositories. So we started creating some kind of scripts around it that in case if I am enabling a new or delivering or creating a new application, is it integrated with any technical or the business component? If it is not integrated with any business or technical component, it is an exception because I cannot have any application that has no integration with technologies, landscape, or the business architecture. And likewise, we have close to, I think, 48 scripts that are documented that does these type of checks. So wherever a human involvement is needed, we are trying to get away with that particular model and look for the opportunities to automate it. And we also added several workflow to address the data quality and the completeness. So whenever a new application is added or registered in the application repository, we start the workflow. And what this workflow does, it kind of triggers an email to the lead segment architect who has the complete insight into the solution or the TWG chair to make sure that whatever data has been registered in the application repository tool is accurate. So those type of measures we have implemented to harden our process. In regards to tool, we implemented the enterprise architecture tool last year in around August timeframe. That is to kind of represent and maintain living and breathing reference architecture that looks uniform and consistent throughout the portfolios that are our organizations and several domains like business, data, application, and technology. And we also delivered the integrations with this EA tool with several homegrown and other COTS and SaaS solutions such as application profiler, service management, data modeling tool, PPM tool, etc. And we are pulling and pushing data from the enterprise architecture tool to make sure that we have all the needed artifacts in the EA tool. Outcome, we came up with the mission and objective. That was the first thing we did when we started this effort, that what exactly we have to do, what is our mission statement, what objectives we have to address. Objectives such as like make sure that our enterprise architecture blueprints are always current, they look uniform, consistent. Most important, the EA blueprints that we are trying to deliver is making sense to the business organizations, and it is helping the digital transformation or any type of transformation. We came up with the enterprise architecture principle and policies, and we continue to educate and collaborate the enterprise architects on these principle policies and the tool that we have recently implemented. And the outcome, most important one, now we have one common repository for all the IT assets where we record the business outcome statement. We have all the applications in one tool, the platforms, the APIs, all our suppliers, their products and the technologies, our capabilities, services, organizations, actor roles, everything are in one tool, our enterprise architecture tool, and we have started to connect the dots together. So, and that's where we were able to implement some of the governance scripts that I mentioned before to kind of make sure the data quality is accurate and all these artifacts are connected with each other. The results we achieved. In regards to people, we now have very active and engaged participation from all the enterprise architects and other stakeholders. Simply because the way we started this program, we did not bind too many process around it. So as I mentioned, we are all our enterprise architects, and enterprise architect equal to BDAT, business, data, application, and technology. So the way we started focusing more on what I have on the table instead of not focusing what I don't have. So for example, we had all the applications in the repository, all the data objects are there, if not all, at least 80–90%, and the technology layer is pretty solid. So we started focusing on that and make sure that let's complete that architecture together. And our EA tool is flexible enough that I can build my enterprise application architecture today, and when I have the business architecture tomorrow, I will create the business architecture and start connecting the business processes with the application component. So we have that flexibility. And with that flexibility, I think the EA team started to see some value that, hey, I can work on part of the architecture now, and I can bring the remainder of the information whenever they have it. So a lot of interest from the EA community. And we got the commitment on the deliverables, not from just the enterprise architects, but from the top management as well. So they are totally vested and committed to the enterprise architecture now. And we also define the roles and responsibility amongst several EAs. In regards to process, we had the alignment on the new operating model and the interaction model. IT is going through the transformation as we speak. We are almost at the borderline, at the finish line. So we have implemented the new operating model, which is aligned with the enterprise capability model. And I will give you the sneak preview of it. How does it look like? Governance process is fully integrated with the operating model. and we try to make sure that how we can reduce the bureaucracy when we are aligning the governance process with the operating model. And we added the process to capture KPIs and metrics on the enterprise architecture. KPIs, key performance indicators and metrics. This is just, think of it more of several pointers where we measure and capture the health of enterprise architecture, like number of exceptions, number of incidences, maturity level, so on and so forth. We have around 18-20 metrics and KPIs that we are capturing at this point of time. Tools. Create and publish enterprise architecture blueprint in one common repository. That is our objective. And our enterprise architecture tool is good enough to kind of, lets enterprise architects to do the architecture work. And on the other side, we can publish these architecture blueprints to entire audience, to entire IT or intercorporation, so that they can view these blueprints whenever they need to. And these blueprints are very intuitive. We also are in works to create a dashboard to communicate uniform KPI and metrics. So it's one-stop shop. Anyone can go figure out, hey, how does my portfolio look like? What are the applications where the number of incidences are going up or going down? How about my TCO look like, the total cost of ownership for each and every application? So one dashboard with all the metrics. And also, we have much improved data quality and completeness simply because we triggered many processes and controls around it. Outcome. We delivered IT on a page in our new EA tool. It is one-stop shop for all the enterprise architecture blueprints with common look and feel. And I will give you a sneak preview how we have designed it. And we are also exercising the value of enterprise architecture with the major transformational projects that are currently underway. This is most important bullet to me personally. Some of the folks still perceive or see enterprise architecture as more of a kind of a documentum or documenting body, but that is not so. And I think the maturity of the enterprise architecture tool has gone up. They are very mature tool nowadays. And it gives you a lot of intelligence around it, that in case if we have to do any type of transformation, what is the impact? With our EA tool, we can run that particular impact analysis in a matter of hours, no matter what is the size of the project. So while we are in the EA journey, we are making sure that we continuously and constantly show the value of enterprise architecture to our business partner and IT. I can give one simple example here. I think 4 or 5 years back, we were transitioning or transforming our on-prem HR system onto cloud. And we did not have the blueprints available at that point of time. Neither we had any enterprise architecture tool. So now, of course, the first thing we have to figure out, what is the impact if I have to move from an on-prem solution to a cloud? What is going to be the impact? We have close to 1,000 integrations with our on-prem solutions with other enterprise systems. It was a very large transformation Intel has gone through. So we end up huddling up with about 28, 30 people on site. We pulled everyone to participate in that meeting throughout the globe. And the objective was, let's do the analysis. What is the impact? And also come up with the scope. So we thought we'll be done in 1 week, but we end up having so many face-to-face meetings in one site, one location for about almost a quarter. And we started to get the details, a little insight that what is the impact of this particular transformation. Had this EA tool was in place at that time and all the blueprints were recorded with fully connected application, data, technology architecture together, it could have been a day's worth of effort, or maybe 2 days worth of effort. So at this point of time, what we are doing, as I mentioned before, we have 5 or 6 major transformational projects currently underway. So we are recording our current state of the business data and application architecture in the EA tool. just to do the impact analysis that if I move my, say, for example, product lifecycle management solution from on-prem to cloud, what is going to be the impact? So instead of 1 quarter or 2 quarter of effort, probably will be done in a couple of weeks. So those are some of the values we are trying to show to the line of business or the business community and IT management as well. And another outcome, as I said before, the KPI metrics are defined and baselined, and we will start to publish it via the dashboard. Now, how does IT on a page look like? This is how it looks like. It is based upon the industry standard TOGAF framework, primarily divided into 4 sections. The first section talks about the business outcome statement and the roadmaps. And business outcome statement contains all our goals, objectives, strategies, trajectories, industry trends and disruptors, and key initiative to address all the goals. And they're not a bunch of boxes. Every object or goal or strategy or trajectory that we define in the business outcome statement, they are tightly linked to the applications, so that we know in case if I change my strategy or change my goal, what impact it will have to the business architecture and the application architecture as well as the technology architecture. Very well integrated with the DAT stack. We also define the roadmaps, that is to kind of execute the strategy, program, and project plans. And hence, these roadmaps are very critical for us to understand where business is headed, and we can do some sort of fit gap analysis to make sure that whatever the business strategy is, we have the solutions ready to address their future needs. The next one is the enterprise capability model. This aligns with our IT operating model, and I will give you a sneak preview. How does it look like? The next block, pretty much around the application and data. We have the portfolio application landscape that gives complete insight into all the application within the value stream. Data architecture, end-to-end data flows, how these entities are connected or integrated with the business architecture and the application architecture. And we are also publishing all the reusable IT assets such as API, tools, and capabilities. And everything that you see here kind of all interconnected. The last but not the least, we are also publishing all the platform as a service that we have on-prem as well as in the cloud. Infrastructure as a service, technology landscape, and data center. Now, how does the enterprise capability look like? This is a replica of our operating model. This is how we are operating. And every box that you see here, it is not a box that we see in Visio PowerPoint. These are the Archimate elements. And they are living and breathing elements. Every time there's any change, say for example, hire to retire director changes, we will know the name of that, who is or is the director of hire to retire or source to pay or this entire value stream. Not only that, what are the total number of applications? The many elements behind these value streams and the solution groups. Now, how we deliver the blueprints, every box that you see here, when if I want to see the blueprints, say for example, for price to deal execution or source to pay, or maybe for high performance compute, it opens up the next screen. It's the common look and feel for every solution group or the value stream. This is how we are delivering the solutions. And what solution or enterprise architecture blueprints we are delivering around business outcome statement for that specific value stream. We are also delivering the roadmap, which is always current, portfolio view, capabilities, and the BDAT stack, along with any kind of strategic architecture. So, for example, if I'm transforming market to lead or sales to market, I will put the to-be reference architecture in this particular section. And this is a consistent look and feel for every value stream or solution group. And as I said before, when we expose these artifacts to the larger audience, they just have to click on it. It gives you the visibility of how that particular architecture looks like. Now, as I mentioned before, we are using Archimate 3.0 as our ADM. What we did is, our objective was to keep everything simple. As you see here, Archimate has about 74 elements and 14 different type of relationships, but we customized that particular meta model and we brought it down to 26 Archimate elements and 8 relationship type. Now, we might ask that, why did we do that? Why we brought down from 74 to 26 and 14 to 8 relationship types? If you remember the example that I gave around the automated governance process, we are automating the data quality and the governance as much as we can. So every relationship that is going, for example, from an application interface to a business role, or from a data center to a node, it's all scripted. What does that mean? In case if I have a business process that is not linked to an application server is an exception. If I have a business capability that is not linked to any business process, that is an exception, so on and so forth, so that we can control the data quality, and also we can keep the meta model simple so that we don't add too many Archimate elements and make the diagrams confusing. At the end of the day, we have to make sure that are we meeting our enterprise architecture goals and objective. And this trimmed down version of the meta model that we came up with, we are able to pretty much meet all the goals and objective. Okay, so this is about our meta model. So what we have done so far: a strong desire and support from the top with absolute commitment and passion from the change agent. This is needed. This is much needed. And then the second one is, now depending upon the size of the company, we choose to pick few teams to lead the way so that we can quickly learn and understand the roadblocks, create the BKMs, and keep the momentum going on, and then integrate with other teams to kind of engage with the enterprise architecture effort. And we constantly collect the feedback also. Every time we meet in the enterprise architecture community of practice, we collect the feedback and we make changes to the policies, principles, etc. And data quality is the key. And this is an important thing to remember. We have to make sure that data is accurate. If the data is not a quality data, whosoever is looking at the enterprise architecture blueprints, they're going to lose interest and they will lose confidence. So this is what we have learned, that make sure the data is the quality data that we put together in the enterprise architecture tool. Reuse, do not reinvent the wheels. Now, what does that mean? Reuse whatever you guys have. So we started reusing our application profiler, where we registered all our applications in one repository, and we started pulling that data into the EA tool. And we also have our infrastructure detail in the service management tool. So we started pulling that data also in the EA tool so that we can connect the dots together. So our focus is to reuse as much as possible, not just the artifacts and data, but also the industry standard framework and processes, including the principles as well. So we don't have to invent the wheels. We have TOGAF framework. It's an industry standard, extremely mature, has been there from 15-20 years. I would rather reuse instead of reinventing anything of our own. So those are some of the learnings. Influence the key stakeholder by showing value with real life example of enterprise architecture. This is something I talked about earlier. Make sure we continuously and constantly show the value of enterprise architecture and not just make it as a document repository. If we are trying to make enterprise architecture just document those 20-30 artifacts, it's not going to add any value. And whatever artifacts we create, we have to make sure that it is going to make sense and it is going to help the digital transformation or whenever we make any change. And continuously collect the feedback and encourage open communication. This is extremely important, especially with the stakeholders who do not see value. We show the value and ask them, hey, Do you understand what exactly enterprise architecture blueprints can do for you and help the transformations? Keep the communication lines open, two-way. This is important. What we learned, I think creating the foundational reference architecture is extremely important. It will help to do the fit gap analysis by looking at the roadmap, where our business is headed. Will also help clean up the technical debt, and we can implement the plans to simplify it, and also build plan to address the business strategy and digital transformation. So this is something we have learned, although I think I was reading some papers out there. This is considered that one of the worst practice in the enterprise architecture. But I think to us, it has been the best practice. Focus on building the blueprints of the foundational of the reference architecture. That is extremely important. Be efficient on consistency, standardization, enable automation wherever possible, and reduce bureaucracy. Reduce bureaucracy is the key out of this particular bullet item. We don't want to make enterprise architecture organizations or body look like, hey, it's a very process heavy. We shouldn't become the roadblocks for them. Create business-driven architecture blueprints, keeping the enterprise architecture objective and principle in mind. And we are still learning. As we are in the journey, we continue to learn, make sure that we continue to harden our process and simplify it as well. So what do we plan to do next? In regards to people, we are going to continue to invest in people and develop their skill set. Our objective is that, hey, everyone in the IT organization is an enterprise architect. So we have to start with that culture so that they see the end vision, they see the value of enterprise architecture, and partner with all the stakeholders. And continue to collaborate and share progress with the stakeholders and highlight the risk area proactively. So whenever we see any risk, we have to make sure that, hey, we bring it up on the table and address it quickly. So be more proactive than reactive. And ask for help in case if there is any technical debt or somehow enterprise architecture is not getting to where we want to go. Ask for help to the management so that they get some attention. Continue to collaborate with IT and the business leaders to address their use cases proactively. In regards to process, assess maturity level periodically. Now, what we are planning to do to assess the maturity level twice a year, so that in case if some of the organizations are not there yet, the maturity level that we expect, we can put some more focus and make sure that they are whatever the maturity level is +1 next year. Automate application rationalization process while implementing the Gartner's time and pace layering model. We are looking for the opportunity to automate it. Automate with some sort of AI implemented around the applications framework. And also to continue to improve the data quality via the automated workflow. Right now we have implemented a couple of workflows, but I think we are planning to implement a lot more workflow. I'll give you a few examples. Whenever we add any application in our IT asset repository or the enterprise architecture tool, we are planning to trigger the workflow where we will capture some of the details via the survey. So for example, I might want to automate the workflow to ensure that if I'm landing in the application on a specific infrastructure or network zone, so we have high trust zones, secured enclaves, DMZ, and depending upon the data classifications, we allow or do not allow the application to sit in specific network zones. So we are trying to get the questions via the survey that what is the data classification? Is it Intel confidential or it is Intel top secret? And then we ask, okay, where this particular application will be landed. If it is not landing in the right infrastructure, then that is an exception. So those type of things we are implementing via the automated workflow. And we do the periodic assessment of the business roadmap to run the fit gap analysis. In regards to tool, As I said before, our goal is to reach 50% governance by the end of this year and 85% maybe by 19 through people, process, and tool. And we continue to invest and harden enterprise architecture to consolidate several IT assets in one place and enable APM, application portfolio management, including the total cost of ownership of the applications. Also give a sneak preview or kind of analysis on how does our supplier and technology landscape look like, and also do some sort of high-level risk assessment around applications, maybe at the portfolio level, maybe at the capability level. So there's a lot of things kind of coming along. And also deliver a common dashboard where we can publish all the KPIs and metrics. Outcome. Our expectations to have end-to-end APM, application portfolio management solution with automated portfolio assessment. Now, what is automated portfolio assessments? We would like to trigger some alerts to the portfolio owners in case if they see any abnormality or exceptions to their application landscape. For example, some of the application incidences might going up. Maybe the TCO is going up and the usage of the application is going down. Somehow accidentally we end up landing an application with the Intel top secret data in the unsecured environment. So those type of exceptions we will trigger out of this APM solution and send the notifications to the value stream directors so that they can take some actions. We will also implement the business process efficiencies. That is to compare the industry best known practices or industry business architecture such as APQC with Intel business process with time to run comparison. I'll give an example. So what we are doing is in our business architecture, some of the business processes we have until level 3 and 4. Some of the business processes go all the way until level 7 or 8, depending upon the complexities. We are recording the time to run within each business process, how many hours or days it takes. And then we sum it up up to level 3, that how long it is taking to run a specific business process. And then we compare it with the industry benchmarks. Just to make sure that are we efficient enough? Are we slow or faster? Wherever we are slow, how we can bring it up to the speed, and wherever we are fast, how we can further improve it. So those type of analysis we can do within the enterprise architecture tool. And our goal is to have an adaptive and adaptable reference architecture to support any type of short or long-term disruptions and or transformations. With that, I would open up for Q&A.
Thanks very much, Parvinder. That was a great presentation, and we have a bunch of questions in. Hopefully we'll get to some of them. I know we won't get to all of them. Just a couple of things. Many of you asked, what is the enterprise architecture tool that Intel's using? Unfortunately, Parvinder can't say, but BizDesign is sponsoring this webinar, and we have a great enterprise architecture tool called BizDesign Enterprise Studio and Horizon. So I'll leave you to connect the dots, but we're thrilled to be a partner and collaborating with Parvinder on this journey. Parvinder, we had a lot of questions which are sort of summarized in one. And you and I have talked before about this people, process, tools journey. You've talked about how the hardest thing was the people part, and process and tools is relatively straightforward. A lot of questions about what did you do to get executive buy-in and to say it is worth you investing in this initiative and you will receive benefit from this. So can you tell us how you got that initial buy-in and how you maintain that stakeholder investment in what you're doing?
Certainly. I think the short answer is when you stand up in front of the management, show them the data. Show them the data with a proof point. You have to prove that it's worth the investment into the enterprise architecture effort and tool. Examples I gave, when we were moving from the on-prem HR to the cloud, we spent 1 quarter. Now you calculate the number of dollars we invested. 1 quarter multiplied by 28 people, the travel, everything, auto, equal to comparison of, hey, what if the EA tool was there? I could have done the same thing in less than a week. So those type of Data points will help management make quicker decisions and to see the value. And impact analysis is another thing we would like to see. These 2 points are extremely important. Talk with the data, show them the value, how EA is going to help them to go faster in the digital transformation journey.
Okay, that's great. Another question that came up, which is one we hear often at BizDesign as well, is in today's world of agile and agility, enterprise architecture teams can always be seen as the bureaucracy, the group that slows things down. I know that's something you're striving to overcome, that image, but how do you reconcile agility with governance that comes from EA?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the bureaucracy topic that I was discussing in several slides. We have to make sure that how we can be lean and mean, and when it comes to the process, how we can reduce the bureaucracy. And I think the only way I can think of is to enable AI, artificial intelligence, via having the automated data quality checks, bring the automation as much as possible so that we can minimize the human involvement and have the EA tools to be that guy to facilitate the data quality improvements and reduce bureaucracy.
Got it. So we had a number of questions about, how much of Archimate do you expose to the stakeholders? And I should point out that the screenshots that Palvinder showed, they all come directly out of BizDesign. So they're interactive screenshots. I hope it's on PowerPoint slides for the sake of this presentation, but as Palvinder pointed out, they're interactive. I can drill in, drill out, and what have you. But the executive stakeholders should not be bothered with or concerned with Archimate. So how do you, I guess, hide the complexities and the semantics of Archimate and reveal to them, crystal clear, actionable sort of insights that don't require them to learn the language of Archimate?
Absolutely. So I think the reason we picked up Archimate simply because it is the most simple Archimate architecture modeling method or language. It's very intuitive, and the meta model that I was sharing, it's a very trimmed down version of Archimate 3.0. Now, what we have done internally, we are delivering 2 set of artifacts. One is the reference architecture. Second is the actual solution architecture. Now, we are exposing the reference architecture to the larger audience, including management. And it's very clear, and there's little bit of kind of hand-holding and training or some kind of legend type of representation that we are doing on the portal, where we say that every purple color or brown colors is equal to strategic element. Every green equals application. Every blue equals blue equals technology. So they just have to understand very basic minimum details, and we have put standards around the naming conventions also, that how would I represent my reference architecture versus solution architecture, or Archimate reference element versus solution element. So we try to simplify it with common look and feel, so that if I'm the CIO or the VP or GM, I don't have to struggle to understand what exactly that box is. So
the hour, I think.
Standardization.
There you are. You're back, Palvinder. We lost you there for a second.
Okay. So do you want me to repeat it?
Go ahead.
Okay. So what I was trying to say
we just missed the tail
end. Okay. So we are representing the architecture blueprints in 2 sections, reference and the solution. And the naming conventions are extremely important so that they can understand. Keep the reference architecture at a very high level so that it kind of matches the stakeholder expectations, but solution architecture that are exposed to the more technical folks. So we have gotten very positive feedback so far on the Archimate. No concerns at all from any type of stakeholder. As I said before, Archimate, I think, is the most simplified modeling language, what we have seen so far.
Got it. Well, Palvinder, thank you so much for your time today. One last comment that we got, more of a comment than a question, which I think is a testament to the journey you've been right through. And this attendee said, you should write a book about this. So there you go. There's your next job, Palvinder. Write a book about your journey. I'm sure everyone would agree today that this has been a really interesting story as you looked from a people, process, tools perspective. So many people think this is just software, double click install, and all your problems will be solved. As we know, it's a much more complex problem. And as I think you pointed out, getting the people aligned and getting the stakeholders aligned is very, very important. So once again, Parvinder, we at BizDesign are thrilled to be partners with you. We're glad to see you getting value out of our software. We're looking forward to continue the journey with you. And for all those people we didn't get to your questions, we'll be following up either directly or we'll route to Parvinder. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. And thank you, Parvinder, for taking the time. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Bye-bye.